Making this beautiful dress in the simplest way ever. That's what we are going to do today. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If it's your first time here, you're welcome. To all my subscribers, thank you very much. Now you can see how the dress came out. And the funniest part is that I used just 1 yard to make the down part of this dress, though I had to use additional fabric to make the sleeve. Without wasting your time, let's dive to the video. Now let's see how I'm going to use this 1 yard of fabric by 60 inches length to make the beautiful dress you just saw. So now I have my fabric folded in two. I already went ahead to cut the desired length and the width, and this is folded in two, and I'm going to be using this part for the front part. So the main length of the gown is about 39, so I'm going to mark out 40. And you can see I place my tape rule on 15. 1 to 15 is from my shoulder to my half length, so I have 15 to 40. I'll go ahead and mark out the circumference of my waistline divided by 4, and I added 2 inches allowance, so I marked it on the waistline, and I came down about 10 inches for my hip line. For me to get the perfect place for my hip, I came down 10 inches. And I also mark there the circumference of my hip divided by 4, and I added 2 inches allowance also, just exactly the way I did for the waistline, and I just connected the 2 points together. Then for the down parts, I don't want the dress to be tight. We already know this dress is very free, but I just want mine to be mini free and not too tight. And since I'm even managing my fabric, so what I did was I marked exactly what I have on my hip line, and I just marked it down for the knee parts, and I'm connecting it straight to my hip line. So it's going to be a bit free, not body hug. So guys, I connected the 3 points together and I went ahead to cut it out. And after I'm done, I also cut for the waistline. We'll keep this aside. Then bring another of our fabric. I already have another of our fabric. I cut the same way I cut the front parts, just desired length and the width, everything, so that I'm going to maintain or manage my fabric very well. And guys, I'm going to be placing the front parts that we just cut now. I'm placing it straight on the fabric I have down, using the same measurements. Remember, I added 2 inches allowance. One, this fabric is a bit stretchy and I don't want much allowance. After all, we are just managing our fabric. So I'm going to be using 1 inch from the 2 inches allowance I have. Use 1 inch for my zipper allowance. Then the remaining 1 inch is going to be for the sewing. So I will just go ahead and cut out perfectly exactly what I have already placed on it. And after I'm done cutting it, I'll put one aside. Then this one, which is for the back side, the down part of the back area, I'm going to open it wide. I'm going to cut it into 2, and that's exactly where we are going to be putting the zipper. Remember, there's not going to be slit at the back, so the down part is going to be closed just for the zipper, and that's why we added that 1 inch. Then for the second fabric, I just brought it back, lay it straight on the table, which is for my front part, the down part, and I lay it on the table just for me to determine where the left and the right is going to stand on my body. And when I got it, I labeled it L. Now this is me just trying to determine where the slit is going to stand from, where the slit is going to start. And I'm using my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 7 inches. I divided it by 2. I have 3.5. Then I added 0.5, which is 4 inches. So from the center of the fabric I folded, I went inward or outward 4 inches, and I just marked it straight down. And I connected the points together. You can see it's now. I'm seeing that it's not really straight. So while cutting yours, try to use ruler. But guys, believe me, it's going to be straight later on. So now I just went ahead to cut it, open it, and that's where the slit is going to be. I added that 0.5 so that I'm going to use to hold it. At the end, we are still going to result at 3.5. Perfect. That's where I'm also going to sew it. Just keep watching. You are going to see everything step by step. We'll keep this aside. Then for the upper part, I have a paper already on the table, and I have some lines. From the starting point to 8 inches is my chest line, to 10 inches is my bust point, to 13 inches is under bust, and the HL is the half length, which is 15 inches. So I went ahead to mark from the starting point to mark the half measurement of my shoulder, and I slanted it down with 1 inches. And before I mark that, I just marked the neck, though I don't really need the neck measurements. I just took 3.5 by 3.5. Then I went ahead to mark out the shoulder measurements. Remember, I came down with 1 inch. Our shoulders are not straight, so that's why we need a shoulder slant. And from there, I connected it straight down to my chest line, and I determined the half length of the line. I drew down to the chest line just for me to get the perfect armhole for the front side, and this armhole is just for the front side. On all the horizontal line drew on the paper draft, so I went in about 4 inches and I dotted it on all the points, and I connected it together up to the bust point. Then I took it, extended it to the chest line. Then back to the half length, I went in about 0.5 on both right and the left side, and on my bust point I came down about 0.5. Then I connected the points together. It's just a basic dart for the dress. After doing that, I went back to my chest line. Then I divided the circumference of my bust into 4, and I added allowance about 2 inches. Then on the under bust too, I divided the circumference of my waist, my under bust. I divided by 4. I added allowance, and on the half length, I divided the circumference I had measured initially by 4, and I added my allowance. I connected the lines together. Then I went ahead to cut out all the patterns I have already on the paper draft, so you can see exactly what I have. Then on the shoulder, I also removed the 1 inch I came down with. And now I'm going to be using this paper to cut the back part before we start designing the fronts. So this is what I did for the back. I just, from the chest line, I came up about 1 inch because I don't want the back part to be too down. I came up about 1 inch and I folded it. And now I'm going to be placing it on the fabric. Just take a look at this fabric. I have it folded already in 2. And know that when I was cutting for the front, I didn't include zipper allowance. So I'm going to be leaving about 1 inch for zipper allowance for the front. And I will just go ahead and cut it out. You can see perfectly where we are for the front. That's exactly where I left about 1 inch for the zipper allowance. I'm going to be taking the right measurement now so that you can see the 1 inch I left. Then the excess that is there, I'm going to cut it off. And this perfectly is for our back part. And you can see I'm trying to just leave some space, some allowance, 0.5, so that I'm going to use to stitch the down parts and this upper part together. If you are yet to like this video, please just give it a thumbs up, thank you. And please don't forget to subscribe before leaving. Thank you. So you can see exactly what we have. Then the dart, we are going to replicate it also on the back part, but I'm not going to open it. I'll just hold it when I'm sewing it. I will just mark it to know the perfect place for the allowance. So I'm just going to be marking it exactly the way you are seeing it now, and marking it using the paper pattern, and I'll place the other part on it so that the chalk is going to reflect. But guys, when I was doing this, I didn't know that it was not really clear on the camera, but just try to understand what I'm doing just to get the line replicated on the other part of the fabric. I'm going to keep that aside, then bringing back the paper to get our front panel cut. So I have the paper already on my table. Then I'm going to be manipulating this to get the front cut out. My bust pan is 7 inches. I divided by 2. I have 3.5. Then on the dart line I have on the chest line. So I'm going to be placing my tape rule on 3.5. Then I'll mark it on the left side down to the underbust 3.5, using my tape rule to mark 3.5, 3.5. Then going back to the chest line, I came up about 1 inch because I don't want it to be too down or to show cleavage. Then from there I slanted it to the center. Note this, when you're cutting your fabric, it's going to be on fold. So this paper is not on fold, but while cutting my fabric I'm going to fold it. So I just slanted it to the center part. Then I straightened the line together, cuff it very well. Then I went ahead to cut out what I have. Remember, this upper part, I don't need it. All I need is the down parts and the cup already cut. So guys, going back to our fabric, it's really funny using 1 yard to make this dress. So going back to the fabric, I lay it down. At this point I was just thinking, where am I going to use to get this draft out, cut out. And you know, I said my fabric must be on fold, but now with the fabric I have left, there's no I can get it cut out on fold. So I have to just cut it to 1 and join it at the center. Yeah, remember, we are just using 1 inch. We are using 1 yard of fabric to make the dress. Okay, now at this point I was able to get one part of the fabric cut out, then remain for the other parts. Please, if you are using you have your material in excess, just fold your fabric in 2, then place the paper draft we have, place it on your fabric and cut out so that you don't have the center open. You understand? Okay, so after I was done, I just placed that pattern on another of the fabric. Then at this point I'm going to be joining the center together, making the right side face the right side. Then after I'm done doing that, for us to get the cup, okay, remember the cup is in gathers, like it has folded, you understand? So using this pattern to just cut out on the fabric is an error. So now we're going to be doing splash and spread. So I'm going to duplicate this pattern already, so I have it duplicated on another paper because I would not like to use that, so that I can get the accurate measurement when I need it. Back to the splash and spread. So I rule my line just 1 inch interval, 1 inch in between each of the lines. So I ruled it. I have about 7 lines, and I just went ahead to number it. It's better for you to number so that you know which side is the right side and the left side. After that, I cut through all the lines. Thank God I have it numbered already. Then I placed it on another paper pattern, leaving a gap of 1 inch in between all the lines. You can decide to use 1.5 or 2 inches in between the line, depends on what you want. So at this point, I don't really have paper tape to tape these lines together, so I just went ahead to use my hand, hold it up, and use my marker to just mark it through. Then I cut it out. But you don't need to go through this stress. If you have a paper tape, just staple everything together and then cut it out. You don't need to start marking it out. But now, alternative. And after I'm done, you can see exactly what I have. Then I brought back my paper and my fabric. At this point I was already thinking, are you sure this is going to be enough for the fabric for the dress? So thank God I was able to cut out the first pattern, then remained to get the other one, and I also went ahead and cut out. I also cut the same another fabric to use as my lining. I cut it too for both sides. Ta-da! For sewing, so for the back part, the down part of the back area, so I've gone ahead to join the line. Remember, we are going to be fixing zipper there. I've gone ahead to join the line together, leaving just the area for the zipper open, and the area I just left about 10 inches. Then for the down parts, I'm going to fold it up, and it's just left for you. You can decide to use gum to gum it, glue it together. Then for the front parts of the down parts, the front area of the down parts, then remember we have slit on it. For the slit, I just went up about 8 inches. I wanted the slit to be around 7 inches. but making it 8 inches so that I included the one I'm going to be folding up from the down. Then I went ahead to join the remaining together. So you can see what I have. I just have from 8 downward on the down part that I didn't stitch together. Then the remaining part I stitch it together, and you can see what I stitched with is about 1 inch. Remember when I was cutting, I kept 1 inch for the darts. And at this point I have my Emmy gum with me, so I'm going to be using the Emmy gum to glue it. I don't really like when there's slit on the fabric and I just have to stitch it together. It doesn't really look nice for me, so I prefer using my Emmy gum. I either double the Emmy gum so that it's going to be thicker. Then for the down part, I was just thinking, am I going to be using Emmy gum to glue the down, or I should just go ahead and stitch it? Later I stitched it, but for the slit area I used Emmy gum, and I advise you to use Emmy gum. It's going to make the work very neat, and you can see perfectly what I have after I'm done gumming the Emmy gum. Please, if you are using your Emmy gum, if you know your fabric is light, just place another fabric on it and iron it. For the upper area, I have the lining and the fabric already stitched together, but the center of it, I make it inside sewing. Then I stitch up and I stitch down. I did the same thing for both sides. Note, I did the gather stitches on it, not a tie stitches. After that, I went ahead to put my gathers on both upper parts and the down parts. I also have lining cut out for the down part of the front area, so you can see the lining. Remember when I was cutting this thing, it was in 2 pieces, so I already joined the fabric together. So I'll keep the lining aside. Then the gathers I already have for the cup, I'll bring it in, and at this point I'm going to be stitching it together. But before I stitch it, I have to know exact measurement from the initial draft I have, which is 8 inches. So all the gathers I'm going to be putting it should not be more than 8 inches on the upper part. Then for the down one, I'm just going to take it to the fabric and stitch it together, and you can see exactly what I have after I'm done stitching it together. Now I'm going to be using the lining to cover up all the stitches together. I folded the lining to get the center part, so that I'm going to stitch it from one center to the other side, then do it for the second side. I already have about 1 inch of piece of material stitched to the mouth of the upper part. I make the right side face the right side. Then I'm going to double fold it like this, exactly the way you're seeing it, and I'll go ahead and stitch it together. Then the excess that is remaining for the rope, I'm going to double fold and stitch it together. And guys, after I'm done, I carry the 2 pieces and I join and I stitch it together at the waist part. So you can see what I have. You can see the slits, everything there. Okay, for the rush side, like the cup area, there are different ways you can stitch it together. You can stitch it in a way that you'll be able to pass through a rope inside. You can also stitch it and use just extension of the rope and tie it together. Okay, the upper parts of the back area, there's no much work there. Just I went ahead to cut lining using the same pattern I have already, and I stitch all the lining together, making the right side of the fabric face the right side of the lining. I just left the down part, which is the waist side, and that's where I turn it inside out from, and I just cut it, trim all the excesses downward there. And after I'm done, I'm going to be connecting it to the back, the down part of the back. At this point, I'm going to be putting the darts. Put your darts. Remember how I marked my darts, but then also remember to remove the zipper allowance before you mark your darts. After marking the dart on both sides, I went ahead to join it together to the down part and also fix my zipper. You can see exactly what I have. For the extension of the zipper, you can decide to cut it or you leave it, depends on what you want. And I really hope you know how to mark and fix a perfect zipper on your dresses. If not, watch my videos. I have tutorial on how to fix perfect zipper. And after I'm done laying the fabric, the dress exactly like that, so I went ahead to mark my measurements. At this point now, I'm going to be marking the exact body measurement, dividing it by 2 this time around, no more by 4 again. Then I marked for the bust, I marked for the waist, and on the hip from the waist I came down 10 inches and I marked the hip line divided by 2 on it. Then for the down parts, I don't want the down part to be tight, so I use the exact measurement I used on the hip line. I used for the down parts. I want it to be free. Yes, it has slits, but I still want it to be free. Then I just connected the lines together, blend the shape to make it come out perfectly. After I was done joining the front and the back, I realized I have not yet put the sleeve, and guys, you can see what the fabric is remaining. So at this point I had to look for alternative. So I have this fabric, almost the same texture with the material, so we are going to be using this to cut the sleeve, and I have it folded in 4 because I'm cutting the 2 sleeve at the same time. Then I marked about 8 inches. I took it down. The length of the sleeve is 7, but I marked 9. I need 2 inches for folding up and the down part. Then for the down part, the round sleeve, I also marked about 7 inches, about 9 inches. I made it 9 inches because I'm going to be fixing this elastic band. And for the armhole, the part that is going to enter the armhole is about 4. I measured it from the dress, so I slanted it to the other edge, exactly the way you're seeing it, and I connected the points together. And guys, this is just the basic for the sleeve. And after I was done, I just cut out everything, and you can see perfectly what we have these 2 sleeves already ready. So I kept one aside and I opened up one, so you can see now the down part. I'm going to fold this with this elastic. Then the down part, I'll also do the same thing, and I will do the same thing for the second sleeve too. Then for the elastic, how am I going to know how many lengths I'm going to use? Just take the measurement of your round sleeve where you want the sleeve to be and reduce about just 1 inch, and you cut it out for the elastic. And guys, I fix it, and you can see how it turned out. At this point, I don't even know what I was doing, but I was just happy the dress finally came out. I have this fabric long ago. Please don't leave without subscribing, and see you in my next video. Bye.